All right, so leaky pipes, right? Especially those ones hiding away where you practically need to be a contortionist to even see them.
Yeah.
We've all been there, am I right? That feeling when a simple plumbing fix goes from like, oh, this is annoying, to I need a nap, a hug, and maybe a therapist.
It's the worst.
But here's the deal. Even those super tricky PVC repairs in tight spaces, the ones that make you want to cry, they're totally doable once you've got the know-how. And that's what today's deep dive is all about. We're diving headfirst into this website, Tigerfish Tools. And get this, they're all about this tool, specifically made for chopping pipes in super tight spots.
How interesting.
Right. You might be thinking, okay, niche tool, niche problem, but hold on. Here's the kicker. They dropped this stat that 1 in 5 homeowners put off repairs, and it's not even always about the money.
Really? Huh. So what's the reason then?
That's what we're going to find out. Why are we all letting those little drifts become mini Niagara Falls? This deep dive might just have the answer. You ready to become like the plumbing whisperer of your house?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's go. So what I found super interesting about this Tigerfish website is, yeah, they're pushing their tool, but they actually nail why we all get those plumbing cold feet in the first place. It's not just, hey, buy our thing, it cuts things. They break down why these repairs feel like insurmountable, and that actually makes them way more credible, wouldn't you say?
Totally. It's like they get us, they understand the struggle is real.
For real.
Yeah.
So let's unpack this fear factor a bit. Why are tight spaces the nemesis of every plumbing project? What makes them so uniquely challenging?
Okay, picture this. You're crammed under the sink, right? You're basically wearing the garbage disposal as a hat.
Oh, been there.
You have zero space to even move, let alone, like, swing a wrench the size of your arm around. That's challenge number 1 right there. Your toolbox becomes your worst enemy.
Tell me about it. The last time I was under my sink, I swear I found a Christmas ornament I lost like 3 years ago. It's a black hole of tools and tinsel down there.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And then there's this constant fear of, like, destroying everything while you're down there. One wrong move and you're taking a chunk out of the drywall. Or even worse, you hit another pipe and suddenly that one leak you started with becomes like a 5-alarm plumbing emergency.
Okay, that visual was not necessary.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my biggest fear, right? It's like performing surgery on a pipe, but like blindfolded in a sardine can, no pressure.
Exactly. And then if that wasn't enough, you've got the frustration factor. Trying to actually reach those valves and fittings in those tiny little corners, it's like impossible, like threading a needle in a hurricane. You can't see anything. Your patience is shot. I'd rather just like seal the whole cabinet shut and pretend it doesn't exist.
Oh, I've been there.
Yeah.
But before we all just surrender and wave that white or, very absorbent towel in the air, our source actually throws us a lifeline here. And they start with the basics, those temporary fixes for when you just need to buy yourself some time.
Which, let's be honest, is sometimes all we need, right? Just to regroup, figure out a game plan.
Exactly. But they make a really good point, which is even those little temporary fixes, you got to do them right. You can't just slap some tape on and hope for the best. So let's talk about these quick fixes. And I think we got to start with the classic rubber tape. What's the deal with this stuff? Why is it like the duct tape of the plumbing world? Okay, so rubber tape, right? It's like the duct tape of plumbing, it seems like it fixes everything. But here's the thing that Tigerfish points out. It's like, we're not using it right. A lot of us. We think just cover the hole, done. But it's more than that. It's about actually making that whole area stronger,
Totally. It's like, if you think about it, it's like putting on a bandage, right? You wouldn't just like put this tiny little Band-Aid on a huge cut and call it a day. You want it to go around, support the whole thing.
So true.
Rubber tape, same idea.
Okay, so we're extending that tape way past the leak both ways, several inches. Because it's that squeezing, that compression, when you wrap it tight, that's what really seals the deal and hopefully keeps that leak from like migrating to a whole other spot.
Right. And they even say, like, if the whole pipe looks a little sketchy, you can wrap the whole thing, spiral it around, little pipe mummy.
I love that. Little pipe mummy.
Obviously not a permanent solution, but hey, it buys you time.
Exactly. Okay, so we've got rubber tape, the workhorse, but then it's like the fancy cousin, right? Fiberglass tape.
Yeah.
What's the deal with that? Is it actually made of fiberglass?
It is, but don't worry, you're not going to be itchy and uncomfortable after you use it. So this stuff has like a resin on it and it gets activated by, get this, water.
Oh, so it's like magic plumbing tape. You wrap it on, the water does its thing, and bam, suddenly you've got this hard shell over the leak.
Exactly, and faster than you think, too. Like, they say it sets in, like, 15 minutes, which is pretty impressive.
That is fast.
Yeah, but here's the thing with both the tapes, right? They're good, but only for those small leaks. Like, if you've got a gushing geyser situation happening, you've got to up your game.
Yeah, that's a different deep dive. Makes sense. And like our source was saying, even those little fixes, they get tricky when you're in those tight spaces we've been talking about. I mean, imagine trying to wrap a pipe, like, with one hand tied behind your back, blindfolded. Not easy.
Exactly. So that brings us to the last resort in the temporary fix department, hose clamps.
Ooh, hose clamps. Right, lay it on me.
Now, before you go thinking you can just, like, clamp it and forget it, our source, they give a little word of warning here.
Okay, so spill the tea. What's the deal with hose clamps?
They're not a solo act. They work best as a team. And the best teammate, you guessed it, tape. So you wrap that tape around your leak nice and snug, then you put a hose clamp on either side over the tape, and then you crank those babies down.
So it's like double the compression, right? The tape is doing its thing, but then the clamps are like, we're not messing around. Love it.
Exactly. But, and I can't stress this enough, we're still talking about temporary solutions, right? Like, you wouldn't just put a splint on a broken bone and call it a day. Sometimes you gotta face the music and go for the full repair. And in the plumbing world, we're talking either a saddle repair kit or the big kahuna, a full pipe replacement.
Okay, those both sound a tad more involved than our tape and clamp friends. But you know us, always up for a challenge. Saddle repair kits, let's demystify those first. What are we even talking about here?
Okay.
All right, so we're back. And it's time to tackle those more like heavy-duty plumbing solutions, when the leak is serious. So saddle repair kits, and then the one we all dread, a full pipe replacement. But before you panic, let's break it down. Saddle repairs first. What are those all about? When do you need one of those?
Okay, so think of a saddle repair kit like a way to make that weak spot on your pipe strong again, Like putting a patch on your favorite jeans, except plumbing. Basically, it's this little piece of pipe that clamps right onto that messed up area.
So it's like a split, but for pipes. Yeah, I like it.
Exactly. And the best part, they're actually pretty easy to use. Our source, they walk you through the whole thing. Step 1, turn off the water, obviously. Nobody wants an unexpected shower while they're trying to fix a leak, right?
Safety first, always.
Right. And if you're working on a drain pipe, make sure to drain out any water that's hanging out in there.
Good point. Okay, water off, pipes are drained, we're good to go, right?
Yeah.
Just slap that saddle on there.
Hold your horses. Just like with those quick fixes we talked about, prepping is key. Get that leaky section nice and clean, make sure it's dry, and then the magic ingredient, primer.
Primer. It's like the secret weapon of every DIY project.
Truth. That primer makes sure that PVC cement really sticks. And speaking of cement, don't be shy here. Apply it generously to the pipe and the inside of the saddle piece.
Slather it on there. We want that thing secure.
Exactly. Then you press that repair piece onto the damaged area, clamp it down. Some kits even come with clamps, and then you let that cement cure. Once it's all hard, you've got yourself a reinforced patch, no more leak, hopefully.
Nice. So saddle repair, good option if you catch it early, the damage isn't too bad. But let's talk about when the plumbing gods are not smiling on you and you're looking at a full pipe replacement. That's a whole other beast, right?
It can feel that way, for sure, but the source, they do a good job of like breaking it down into steps. And honestly, once you see it like that, it's not as terrifying.
Okay, I like the sound of that. Manageable steps, I can get behind that.
Okay.
So what's first? You're staring at this pipe that needs to be replaced. What do you do?
First things first, you gotta play plumbing detective. Right. Figure out exactly where that leak is coming from. It might seem obvious, but knowing the exact spot, that's crucial.
The case of the drippy drain pipe.
Right. Once you've found your culprit, it's back to safety first. Turn off that water supply. And remember, if it's a drain pipe, make sure you drain it before you go any further. Trust me, nobody wants a face full of whatever's in there.
Noted. Safety glasses, check. Water, off. Pipes drained. What's next?
Okay, so now you got to cut out that damaged section, which, let's be real, can be the hardest part, especially in those tight spaces.
Yeah, not a lot of room for error.
Nope. And that's where our source really shines. They get into all these different techniques that can really save the day depending on your situation. Flexible or expanding couplings, pipe bridges, and then, of course, just replacing the whole section with a new piece.
So options. It's not one size fits all. I like it. But let's break down those techniques because, knowing which one to use, that's huge. Flexible and expanding couplings. What are those all about?
Well, they're all about flexibility. Like the name says, Seriously, these are your best friend when you're dealing with those super tight spaces where you need a little bit of give in the system. The source even mentioned in-ground piping, like when it's got to go around tree roots. Good luck getting a straight pipe in there.
Yeah, that's not going to end well.
Right. But these couplings, they give you options. Now you've got your flexible couplings and then your expanding or like telescoping ones.
Okay, wait. What's the difference? They both sound pretty flexible to me.
So flexible couplings, they're good for small adjustments when things aren't lined up perfectly. But the expanding or telescoping ones, those are next level. They can actually get longer and shorter, which is perfect for those situations where you need to fine-tune the fit.
It's like having a pipe extender on demand.
Exactly. And our source, they point out that these are great for enclosed spaces. Like, remember those valve boxes we talked about earlier? You can squeeze them in there and then adjust them to the right length without needing a ton of space.
So smart. And those probably cost a bit more than the regular flexible ones, right?
Yeah, they do tend to be a bit pricier, but our source makes a good point. It's like, they're worth it, especially when you're dealing with a really tricky repair.
Okay. Makes sense. What about installation? As complicated as they sound.
Not at all. Pretty similar to the flexible couplings, actually. You attach the hard side first, then you extend that telescoping side to the right length, and then cement everything in place. Speaking of different approaches, let's talk about hard pipe bridges, because what even is that?
Right. Pipe bridge wins for the most creative plumbing term. What are we talking about here?
Okay, so imagine you're driving along and then boom, roadblock. You wouldn't just abandon your car, right? You'd find a detour. And that's kind of what a hard pipe bridge does.
So instead of trying to force a new pipe through a space that's just impossible, you're basically going around the problem.
Exactly. Our source, they lay out the steps. You remove that section that's causing trouble, and then you attach those 90-degree fittings to both sides. Then you put in these short sections of pipe to the fittings, and then, get this, another set of 90-degree fittings. So now you've basically made this bypass route.
And then you run a new pipe between those fittings, totally avoiding the original problem area. That is so smart.
It's brilliant. This method is amazing if you can't actually reach the damaged part for a normal replacement, Work smarter, not harder.
Love it. This deep dive is blowing my mind. It's amazing what a little plumbing knowledge can do for your confidence. Seriously. Okay, we've talked saddle repairs, full replacements, but are we ready to talk about the actual cutting? How do we do it?
Almost. But first, we got to talk about the elephant in the room, or should I say the tight space in the plumbing system. We can talk about all these fancy techniques, but they all depend on you being able to actually cut the pipe.
It's the moment of truth. And honestly, I think that's where most people just call a plumber, but not us, right?
Yeah.
Because Tigerfish Tools is about to blow our minds.
They are. Get ready for the hero of our story, the inside pipe cutter.
Okay, that sounds promising. Inside pipe cutter. What is it and where can I get one?
Right. It does sound too good to be true, but this thing is legit. So picture this, a tool that actually cuts the pipe from the inside out. No more trying to cram a giant hacksaw into a space that barely fits your hand.
Wait, hold up. It cuts from the inside. How is that even possible?
It's pretty genius, actually. Our source breaks it all down. There are these three main parts. A guide wheel, which keeps things nice and stable so you get a clean cut. Then there's the blade, and this isn't just any blade, it's an electroplated diamond blade. And then there's this quick release thing that lets you hook it up to your power drill.
Okay, so you attach this blade to your drill, stick it in the pipe, and magic happens.
Pretty much. You pull the trigger on your drill to get that blade spinning, and then you just guide it around the inside of the pipe. And that guide wheel I was talking about, that's what makes sure you get a nice, smooth, controlled cut.
Smooth and controlled are not usually words I use with plumbing, especially in tight spaces.
I know, right?
Okay, this is amazing. I feel like I'm learning so much. Now, the source did mention these cutters come in different sizes, right?
They do, which I appreciate, because plumbing is not one size fits all, right? So they talk about two main sizes, big ones for those huge pipes, 4 to 6 inches, and then smaller ones for the more standard pipes, 1.5 to 3 inches.
So no matter what you're dealing with, there's an inside pipe cutter out there for you. Amazing. Now, I know we've covered a lot today: tapes, clamps, saddle repairs, pipe bridges, inside pipe cutters. It's a lot. But thankfully, Tigerfish Tools, they don't just leave you hanging with a toolbox full of tools and no clue how to use them. They actually give you a bunch of extra tips to help you succeed, which Thank goodness.
I know, it's great. They cover it all, like using a vise or a V-block to hold that pipe steady while you're cutting. And then the golden rule of PVC cement, you got to use both the primer and the glue when you're joining those pipes.
Words to live by. What else did they say? What are the gems that they drop?
The classic measure twice, cut once. Or in the plumbing world, measure your pipe super carefully before you go buy a replacement. You do not want to get the wrong size. Trust me.
The worst.
Yeah.
Been there. Anything else?
2 more things. Always have some clean towels on hand because, let's be real, plumbing can be messy.
Truth.
And then have one of those deburring tools handy to smooth out any rough edges after you make your cut. It's the little things that make a difference.
This is great advice. I'm taking notes. Okay, last question. Any surprises? Anything you learned that you were like, wait, really?
There was one thing. Did you know that some places actually have rules about how you do plumbing repairs?
No way.
Yes. Like they gave an example. They said some areas actually require you to use purple cement, and not just any purple cement. It has to be like visible after you're done.
Purple cement. You've got to be kidding me. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so we started this deep dive feeling intimidated by leaky pipes and tight spaces, and now we've got solutions. From those quick fixes to those fancy tools and techniques, it's amazing what a little knowledge and the right tools can do.
I know. It's empowering.
It is. Big thanks to Tigerfish Tools for taking us through it all and proving that we can do hard things. And to all of you listening, remember, you got this. Now go forth and conquer those plumbing projects. And who knows, maybe one day you'll be the expert on the deep dive, sharing your DIY wisdom with the world. Until next time, happy plumbing, everyone.